Hello, this is Rumor and my skylight, which will be making an appearance via shimmering sunlight throughout the course of this video. Thank you, trick-or-treaters, for knocking at my door. In lieu of candy, today I bring you another haunting tale from Ghost. If you joined me last spooky season, I did a Biblio-Fancy with this book that is still the only story that I've read in it. So in choosing another one today at random, I'm a little nervous because that one was really sad. It involves the death of a child, so I don't know. Disclaimer, I think that this book could get dark in ways that we don't anticipate, like ones that really, aren't as spooky so much as just sad. So I don't know. I'm hoping to give this another chance and find a fun one for the season. As you can see here, I have got my little spooky layout for the season. Obviously, I'm getting the Halloween feels with all the orange and black. I've got my Raven's Prophecy Tarot and the Mabon Oracle, which I used as a pairing last time I did a story from this. This time I've decided I'm going to use the Trick or Tarot and Halloween Oracle that's just underneath here. So yes, I guess without further ado, let's go with that. And just FYI, the intro, outro to this video are compliments of my little, I don't know whether to call it a snow globe. It's black glitter. And a music box. So I love this little graveyard scene with the crow. Much like Buffy, I think you could also find me in the dictionary with the definition, she who hangs out a lot in cemeteries. I do. I love them. But anyways, okay, so I've done several of these different themes depending on what time of year I'm doing it, what I'm in the mood for. But if you haven't joined me before, basically what I mean by Biblio-Fancy is I start with Bibliomancy, randomly choosing a story that could have a pertinent message for us today at any point that you happen to be watching this video, whether it's the day I post it or weeks, months, years into the future, who knows? But then I zhuzh it up, that's the fancy part, with the tarot reading and supplement what messages we might glean from this. So to get started with the Biblio part, as I knock into my stand, this book is huge. All right, let's see. So as you saw, I've opened to this page, but how I roll with this is, we could pay attention to specifically what ends up being told on this page, but I basically go to the start of the story so that I can read it as a whole for you. So this is The Old Pond, written by Blaise Hemingway, as told by Scott Turley. So let me zoom out so you can see pictures a bit better. I love the illustrations in this book. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so Samuel picked at his food, the sharp sound of fork scraping porcelain echoing in the small kitchen. Dinner was a silent affair. The boy's parents rarely spoke these days. Then again, they didn't have to. The signs of grieving carved deeply into their faces did all the talking for them. Okay, my God, is it going to be another sad one? Okay, anyway. Though 2 years his junior, Emily had been in the same grade as Samuel. The year he was held back, Emily skipped, so Samuel had to suffer the humiliation of repeating the 4th grade in his little sister's class. School, like everything else in Emily's life, had come easy for her. Emily was smart, she was beautiful, she was popular, and she never hesitated to remind Samuel that he was none of those things. Well, Emily teased Samuel both day and night, at school and home, in front of friends and family, always finding new ways to embarrass him. Okay, so I think we've established Emily's the worst. But there was one place where Samuel could escape his sister's taunting. One place where Emily floundered and Samuel thrived, the old pond. While Samuel would swim every day until winter's chill froze the pond over, Emily kept her distance. Not a strong swimmer, Emily never ventured deeper than into waist-high water. But that was what made her drowning so suspect. Oh, God. What possessed Emily to swim out to the deepest part of the old pond? What was she thinking? Why would she do it? The question lingered. Samuel excused himself from the table and went upstairs, climbing beneath the woolen covers of his bed. As he laid his head to the pillow, Samuel turned to the large window facing the backyard. Through it, the boy could see the moon reflecting on the still water of the old pond, the same way it had the night Emily drowned. The boy shivered, trying to push that horrible memory away. Samuel turned to face the ceiling, holding his stare on it until his eyelids finally grew heavy and he slowly drifted to sleep. It was the sound of splashing that startled Samuel awake. His eyes sprang open and he looked out his window. Ripples of water broke up, reflected moonlight on the old pond. Something or someone was in there. Curious, Samuel rose from his bed, stumbled down the stairs, and stepped out the back door of the house. A thin mist clawed out of the water toward the boy, forming a path that led Samuel right to the old pond. Samuel slowly walked toward the silent water, over the dew-covered grass that wet his bare feet and the cuffs of his pajama pants. Samuel stopped at the shoreline, watching and listening carefully, but the splashing had stopped. The old pond was quiet and perfectly still. Samuel turned to look back at the house, and the splashing started again. Samuel slowly craned his head around and spotted ripples in the water. "Hello?" the boy called out, his voice cracking. "Is someone out there?" Help me, Samuel!" He immediately recognized the voice crying out to him. "Emily?" The boy squinted, scanning the surface of the pond. "Please, Samuel, help me," his sister called to him, voice gurgling as her throat filled with water. Samuel looked far out to the center of the pond where he could faintly see his sister bobbing up and down, flailing and grasping desperately at the surface of the water. Instinct took over. Samuel dove into the pond, swimming as quickly as his arms could carry him, stealing glimpses at his struggling sister, making certain she was still there. I've got you. Samuel wrapped his arms around Emily as she coughed up pond water and gasped. She was shaken but alive. Tears rolled down Samuel's face as he gripped tightly to his little sister. "Everything's going to be okay, Emily. Everything's okay," said the boy with relief. Samuel started to swim for shore, towing Emily behind him. With every stroke, the guilt the boy had carried for months began to dissipate. He had been the one to dare Emily to swim to the middle of the pond. He'd only wanted to see Emily struggle at something, the same way he had struggled with so many other things in his life. Samuel never anticipated that she would drown. But now he was given this second chance. He continued to swim, but his strokes became slower and slower. Samuel's muscles ached. His breathing was strained. Despite his best efforts, he didn't seem to be moving. He was stuck in the dead center of the old pond. Samuel turned to see if he and Emily were caught on something. It was only then that he actually looked at his sister's face, now fully illuminated by the light of the moon. Emily's skin was pale, almost translucent. Raised black veins traced her face and neck. Her eyes were black and lifeless. Ooh, she sounds a bit like Dark Willow, Buffy fans. Am I right? Emily? Emily's mouth curled into a maleficent grin, revealing 2 rows of long, pointed teeth. Ooh! I mean, I guess the image was the giveaway there, that, but still. With a violent jerk, Samuel was plunged below the water, pulled with a force that he had no chance of resisting. He screamed and flailed, fighting against it with all his might, desperately trying to make his way back to the surface, but he could not. Samuel watched helplessly as the moon's reflection became smaller and smaller while he sank deeper and deeper. Finally, the moon disappeared from his sight completely. As the last bubble of air left his lips, he knew he would never again return from the black depths of the old pond. Oh my God. And as I suspected, that is the end. Although I'm kind of glad now we didn't get the doll because that title alone freaks me out. But okay, here we go. Can I just make an editor's note? I mean, has there been a change to the language I'm not aware of? I more and more see the word sunk used where I believe it should be sank. My understanding is that sunk is past perfect tense. Sank is past tense. This is past tense. This should be sank. That is why I said sank, not sunk. Just FYI. Anyway, I guess just trying to make light of a really, really dark story. Wow, I am sorry. This is like 2 for 2 rather depressing tales. I'm not so sure about this book. I wouldn't recommend it for bedtime with the kiddos, I guess. Gosh, like do I, don't I keep the visual of a sinking Samuel in here. In any case, let me grab our Halloween Oracle. Got some thoughts as to the story's message, but it'll be interesting to see what the cards further extract. So this is where the Biblio gets fancy as we bring in the cartomancy. Let me think about this. I'm going to keep it to a basic 3-card spread. You can see a little trick-or-treat themed vintage style deck. I'm glad I did this in the daylight. Last time I did it at night. I feel like I need the sunshine beaming through my skylight right now, and I am usually cursing that because I would need a little ray of light in this really dark story. Even the pages through the whole thing were dark. Let's see here. Since I'm using the Trick or Tarot, I'm just thinking maybe I'll do something with Trick or Treat. So I think I'm going to pull a card, like a central card for what haunts us generally. That's kind of taken from my haunted house spread. But then on either side, a trick and then a treat. So like a trick of this tale, and as far as what haunts us, the message we're supposed to take. I guess just an added glimpse of that like tough truth that we need to face. Maybe it's something we're avoiding. Maybe we're trying to push it down in relation to what haunts us. I will leave that flyer out for our consideration after. And then the treat could be that ray of light for us, you know, the advice, that bit of guidance that can renew our hope in this situation, because hopefully there is hope in this situation. And of course, I'm doing a reading for the collective here, so how this pertains to each of us individually could be very, very different. We're just going to be looking at overall energies here, right? And thinking about how it might apply to us individually without me getting ultra specific in the here and now. Okay. Ooh, that split pretty cleanly. Okay, well, you know what? I'm getting Sinking Samuel out of the off the screen a bit because I need space, man. So what haunts us? The trick of it and the treat of it. How does that sound? And then I'll also pull an oracle card at the end and look at this card that flew out while I was shuffling. Okay, so what haunts us? Again, something tied to this story that we just read together. 10 of Pentacles. Okay. Well, you know, when I said before that I had an idea of what we are meant to glean from this story, I definitely got that sense of family and maybe tensions within that family. This is looking like a family photo here. This might be Dad. Dad's a werewolf. I love that. I love this deck so much. But anyways, yeah, 10 of Pentacles. I mean, it can mean an assortment of things, but in this case, I'm very, very much feeling tugged towards that idea of family, familial relations, and sort of you know, the legacy of that, like how we move on in our interactions with each other, those relationships, what they ultimately develop into and perhaps spawn down the road. Maybe that's something that's concerning us, like the future of this family's, I keep saying legacy, but I'm just running with the first word that comes to mind. You know, stuff that happens when we're kids. And now, so maybe it's not even looking down in the future. Maybe it's like we're in the future of something that's happened in the past. If there has been, I mean, it could literally be like a strained relationship among siblings. And so now maybe as adults, there's something that we continue to grapple with, some sort of unresolved issue that could be there. And I mean, I'm saying siblings because of this little image, but then obviously the story, but it could be broader than that for you. And honestly, it could even go outside family. This could be among chosen family as well. Maybe there was a close friendship and there was just some sort of divide, or I don't know, you know, just some sort of relationship. But it seems like something from early in our lives, like during formative years, some sort of relationship that maybe like in the story, there just wasn't that power balance. Where it seemed like there was domination of one over the other, maybe a bit of bullying, maybe something just a bit toxic, at the very least, like slightly strained. I don't know, but it seems like it's something. Just with this being a 10, it just seems like it's something that has like persisted through the years and may continue to. So the trick of it, so again, I'm kind of regarding this as like the harsh truth we need to kind of face up about. Maybe we've been in denial of it. 8 of Swords. Well, maybe this is a call for some accountability on our own. Maybe this is something that, I don't know, are we holding a grudge with regard to this relationship because of something that's happened in the past? And are we clinging to that so much? We've got ourselves trapped in the cage of it, maybe closing ourselves off from this other person, from this other relationship. But is this thing that happened in the past the reality of the now? Or is it something that we're clinging on to? And as I always think when it comes to this card, something that's mostly in our head, a narrative of our own making. And if things seem to repeat and cycle through the years, is that necessary? Or is it because we just sort of have that expectation that's what's going to happen, and we kind of have our knee-jerk reactions to that, and so we keep responding to things in the same way over and over again? That kind of keeps this tension alive, and maybe we're reading into things to wedge it into that narrative that we keep believing in and we keep telling ourselves and others. So that's my automatic thought on that this might be something, and not just for ourselves, the other person involved, whoever this might be for you, they might be doing it too. So we'll see what the treat here is. We'll see what that guidance is, but this definitely does feel like something we absolutely have the power to do something about. And I'm leaning towards a letting bygones be bygones thing, because we saw Samuel in the story, despite Emily's bullying, he was trying to retaliate against that by daring her to swim out to the middle of the pond, knowing that that was something she was averse to. But he puts the dare out there sort of as like a punishment, as like a take that for how you've been treating me. And we all know the expression about eye for an eye, making the world go blind. It's usually the whole tit for tat out of resentments is not the most productive way of approaching a situation like that. So in the case of the story, his sister drowns, and now he lives with the guilt of that. I mean, of course, he's upset with the way she treats him, but, I said Emily's the worst, but yeah, she's also a kid. She's also very immature, and these are things that we hopefully grow out of as adults. And if not, then that is some inner work that Emily would need to work on had she gotten the chance to live. But Samuel, I'm sure he still holds on to the grudge a bit, but then faced with this opportunity, what he believes is a second chance to save his sister, he takes it, because ultimately he didn't want her to die. And there is that hope that things could be better going forward. And if this is something that could make things up to her, he's apologizing for it. And seems like he just wants to move past it. But then we've got Emily at the center of the pond, this undead version of her who is clearly bitter and holding on to that. And so her solution is to just drag him down with her and ruin his life too. So where is the good in that? It seems like Emily almost is caught more in the cage of her own making. I mean, she created it while she was still alive. Why she would choose to have this antagonistic attitude towards her brother. But I know sibling relationships, they can very easily be like that, especially when we're young. But maybe this is something that as grown-ups, we have to put our big boy or girl pants on and just kind of own up to ways in which we are both wrong in a situation, where we both can be taking accountability and apologizing and going forward from there. Maybe there's not the clear villain in the situation. Both parties could be at fault. Who knows? But let's see what our treat is in this case, our advice for this, maybe a ray of hope for the situation. Oh my gosh, could that be more perfect? The star. Yes, clear sign that there is hope in this situation. So it's just, there's some healing that is necessary here. And it seems like healing that can be done individually. Maybe there's a bit of, that self-care and that self-reflection and assessment to get to the point where you can heal your wound enough to acknowledge where maybe you played a part in it back then, or at least have been in the years to follow. by staying trapped in this mindset and holding these resentments towards this other person. So if we can kind of get ourselves to a point where we can maybe make contact, then the healing process could be something that we do together. Maybe the other person has been doing some of the work too, or us just by reaching out could encourage them to start that process, and we could try to help them along the way. So there is something to be salvaged here in this relationship, whatever was like the first thing to jump to mind for you. But again, I do get that sense of it being something from, our earlier years, when perhaps we don't respond to things with the emotional intelligence and maturity that we could, because we're just not quite developmentally there. But again, as adults, we should be there. And if we're not, we need to do the work to get there. But this just shows such promise for the relationship that is still there to be salvaged, that it is something that is not needing to carry into our present and future reality. Ideally, both people in the situation have grown and can now revisit this with a maturity and move on from there. So I guess this is telling us to just give it that chance. And how about I look at our flyer right now to see how this may or may not relate? The Magician. Well, I see this as our cue that we've got what we need to rectify the situation. Certainly not out of our control. We can make this what we want it to be. We have the tools for that healing for ourselves and with this other person. And so if it's what you're wanting, if that's what you are aspiring for, if it has been haunting you and you'd like to make amends here, you are certainly empowered to make that difference. You can make that possible. Get out of your head with that mindset. Set that more positive goal of healing, mending this relationship, whether there's a closeness that follows or not. Just getting past the bad baggage of it will be such a weight lifted. Even if you kind of continue on your separate ways, just knowing that there's been understanding, there's been reconciliation, that does such wonders. And so if that's something that you've been hoping for, I think the Magician is just here to tell you that it's absolutely possible to actually make it a reality. So how about, I keep knocking into this. I'm sorry. I'm like, got the stand pinned between me and the table. That's why as I'm reading the story, if you're hearing my voice, I think sometimes the maybe the volume, or maybe if you're listening in headphones and you're hearing it like shift left to right, is because I'm moving. My phone is like right in front of my face, and so it blocks the book, and I am moving around to try to see the words on the page. I don't always use this stand. I do have one that rests on the table and can help avoid that, but for some reason I still ultimately prefer this one. And we've got some rubbish collection outside on the street that can add a nice soundtrack to this. If you can hear it, if it's being caught on here, how about we just see that as we have dumped this old baggage of this relationship and it is being taken away to the dump, to incineration. We are releasing it, eh? Sincerely, though, I'm sorry for that sound if you hear it. Yes. I'm going to go ahead and get the guidebook out for this too. So as I said before, this is the Halloween Oracle, old favorite of mine. Skull of light, illumination. As the sun dances across its visage. Lovely. That's just the ray of light I was wanting to see for this dark situation, dark story that got us here. Okay. The truck was right outside my window and someone is continuing to dump a bunch of bottles, so there's still sound coming in from the street. I apologize. Oh, it's Skull of Light. Illumination. We can stay in the dark, exist only in the midnight hours, but shining the torch, the victory is ours. Again, that sense of choice that I always get from the Eight of Swords. You can stay trapped, or you can choose to see the starlight. As the famous psychotherapist Jung suggested, knowing our own darknesses helps us cope with the darknesses of others. Taking the time to know thyself and to seek understanding of our more destructive or shadow natures can lead to huge happiness and less anxiety. The idea of being shown the way in the most difficult of times, shown the way, our guiding star, and always knowing that we are never alone in the darkness are the keys to this magical element. Light is usually a comforting thing, yet sometimes we do not really want to see the boogeyman under the bed. It is too scary, too big, and we know not how to defeat it. Yet by simply shining the torch upon such darkness, the victory is ours. And that's why I pulled this card. It's the thing, it is the boogeyman under the bed that we need to shine our flashlight on. Should the skull of light enter your life, know that it is time to open yourself fully to the clarity of bright illumination. Allow yourself to be seen, to see, and to act upon what is shown to you. The time has passed for hiding, for pretending, and for swallowing our discomfort by accepting the status quo when it really doesn't suit us. So, I mean, honestly, need I say more? I could continue belaboring this, but I think this reading has been really clear. As we saw in the story, filled with grief and guilt and regret, huge Five of Cups energy. There can be the time for that, but whatever past mistakes were made, it is in the past. And there are certain things that we just need to move ourselves forward from. And again, just not get caught in those same stories that we tell ourselves. I don't mean to be invalidating anyone's point of view on this if you're still carrying resentments towards this person from your past, but again, is that the person that they are now, and just continuing to take things out on each other? Or maybe if you are just taking things out on each other by not having any contact, maybe you have just severed any and all communication, and that could still be such a weight that you both are carrying that doesn't offer any sense of closure. And by not interacting with each other, that always lends itself to us leaning into the narratives that we tell ourselves. And it's really easy to get ourselves deeper and deeper enmeshed in that and all fired up against this person. And I don't know, have you ever experienced that where you might have felt this way, or at the very least, it's someone you just kind of roll your eyes at, oh, they're so this and that. Oh gosh, this is so annoying about them, blah, blah, blah. And then you meet up for a coffee, and then you're by the end of that, oh, they're delightful. I forgot about how nice it is when you actually are together. It's really different. I mean, it's kind of like how people get so trolly online. People can say anything from the safety of their own home behind the computer. And when you're face to face with someone, though, I mean, there's an energetic interaction that we miss out on when we are solely communicating online, and especially if we're communicating not at all. So I just feel like there's something to be said for, if not seeing the person in person, even just talking to them over the phone or video chat and having an energetic exchange that way. It gives more opportunity for someone to explain themselves and to kind of hash things out and maybe get you to see the other person in a different light, or give them the opportunity to see you in a different light, to see that, hey, that's the person I was. I am so sorry about what happened between us. That's not who I am now. And so even if we're not meant to still be in each other's lives, can we just bring this stuff into the light, make our joint amends for it, and then just move forward with a bit more peace from there? Because otherwise, we're just dragging each other down deeper and deeper into this murky, dark water that just sucks the air out of us. It's such a depleting effect on our energetic resources, and it just does no good. It's time to face how we are getting ourselves stuck in a fixed mindset regarding this relationship, whatever altercations we may have faced in the past, and we need to shine that light on it and, through our own self-healing, kind of get that sense of what our next steps are, find that guidance, and hopefully reconnect and guide each other through it too, for wherever this relationship is meant to go from there. At least let's find ourselves some closure. Let's lift the burden from each other. Let's swim ourselves out of these dark waters that we have just been allowing ourselves to sink into, because it's not necessary. The hope is there, and we've got the means to do it. So with that said, thank you for joining me for yet another heavy, spooky season Biblio-Fancy reading. But I, for what this is worth, I hope it resonates with you in some way. Again, apologies for the very dark story that could poke some very sensitive spots for some of us. And this reading might as well. I feel like this definitely tread into some super sensitive situations that are none of my business where your life is concerned. And it's definitely giving me food for thought for myself and who this might be pertaining to the most, which is, that's work that I will sit and do. But I hope that this was something helpful, and this is a season where we've just had the equilibrium, the balance of the equinox, and now our year is tipping into the darkness. So hopefully this is just a reminder to always find that light that is within each of us and find the light in others. And the descent into darkness doesn't mean that we need to be drowning in it. It's a good time for reflection and release. So thank you again, my trick-or-treaters. And speaking of treats, when I am back next, have I got a treat for you. Stay tuned. I will be posting at my community tab and in the feed elsewhere for my next video, which will be a collaboration with another lovely soul. And I am so freaking excited. More on that to come, but definitely stay posted. It's coming up before you know it. So in the meantime, stay spooky all. Bye-bye.